Alright, ladies and gentlemen, Spider-Man and Wolverine is back with Spider-Man and Wolverine fight to the death. Peter is currently bloodlusted as he found out Wolverine is the reason his parents are dead. He killed Peter's parents. Real Civil War vibes here. And the last issue ended with Peter figuring that out and smacking the hell out of Wolverine. And now we're here with issue 2 where Wolverine has to defend himself against a bloodlusted Spider-Man. A fight he should lose 9 times out of 10, but let's see how it goes. As it starts with Peter yelling at Wolverine, really laying into him, and Wolverine's trying to stop him, trying to get him to understand. But Spider-Man's hearing none of that, as he gives it everything he's got trying to take Wolverine's head off. And I don't know how he's surviving this long without even popping his claws. It's pretty clear Wolverine is doing his best to hold back as he understands Peter's frustration. But how long can he do this before he's overwhelmed? Now I've seen some people cover this comic already, some of y'all are real quick with it, and I noticed no one talking about this scene. See, Peter is looking at the recording of Wolverine supposedly killing his parents, but pay close attention. As you can see, Wolverine does have a knife, and we see them asking what the hell he's doing on the plane, and he says, "My job," and it looked real crazy in the last issue, but here we see something blew up, something hits Wolverine, and then clearly the plane starts to malfunction. So now we know that Peter thinks Wolverine may have sabotaged that plane, as of course he's the one who could survive such a crash. As he continues to wail on Wolverine, but he is trying to tell him that he doesn't want to hurt Spider-Man, he's trying to get him to listen, claws are still not popped. And Wolverine finally gets a hold of Peter, trying to let him know everything that just went through. I know some people are here only for the fight, so just so you understand what Wolverine is talking about, in the first issue, they went up against Omega Red and Kraven. While they were fighting them, they released this kind of toxin that had Spider-Man and Wolverine in a serious kind of dream sequence. Wolverine went through all of the traumas of Spider-Man's life, and Spider-Man went through all of the traumas of Wolverine. And eventually, one of the villains lets it slip that they do have an ally, and Spider-Man has a pretty good idea who it is. It's Mysterio, of course the villain that does all the mind games. So with everything they went through and all of the mind games they had to suffer through fighting these 3 villains, he's telling Spider-Man you can't trust anything. But Peter doesn't want to hear this, as he knocked out Mysterio before looking at this recording. He doesn't believe it was planted, and he knows it wasn't an illusion. And you can see pieces of this recording as these two are fighting, and if you noticed, Wolverine still hasn't actually touched Peter's parents. And he seems to be suffering from the explosion as well. So if that bomb wasn't his, he in fact did not kill Peter's parents. So here's where we can start letting some theories fly, and I believe the big reveal is going to be that Wolverine didn't actually do this. Either he was there to kill his parents and something went wrong, so he's not actually guilty, or he may have even been there to save them as he knew someone would try and sabotage the plane, but he was simply too late. But I do believe at the end of the day it will be revealed that he did not actually kill Peter's parents, but he was clearly there. And Peter is still completely stomping Wolverine. It is not even a close fight, but like I said, Wolverine is holding back trying to explain himself. And the more of the recording we see, the less sense it actually makes, as we see whatever the sabotage was, nothing in the plane works, so his parents cannot save themselves. And when they're looking for the chutes, there are none. So someone thought of everything, which only lends to the idea that if that were the case and Wolverine was the person that masterminded all this, he has no reason actually being on the plane. As based on the recordings we see, they'd die without him lifting a finger. He would just be allowing himself to crash with them to be sure. Like, it doesn't really make much sense. Which is why the situation clearly looks more complicated, but Spider-Man is bloodlusted, we would have to wait for him to calm down to see all the angles. But who knows how long that will take, as we see blood start to cover the panel as he tears into Wolverine, and we see the official death of Spider-Man's parents. As their last thought is of course of their son Peter Parker, as his father says he'll be okay, he has Aunt May and Uncle Ben. And they of course crash into the mountain. Now my theory looks a little thrown out the window, just a tad, as we know Red Skull is the one that ordered the death of Peter's parents, and even he knows this, he's known this for years. And he actually has the recording of Red Skull telling Wolverine to do just this. But I still smell a plot twist. You guys can let me know in the comments if you think they're actually gonna go with this, if this is the official canon that Wolverine is the murderer of Peter's parents. I still think there's a plot twist coming. Now I could be coping, we'll see in the 3rd issue, but I believe that they're gonna twist this into saying that Wolverine was actually an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., doubling as an agent for Red Skull. And once he was given the mission to kill Peter's parents, who are also agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., he was going to actually save them, as that would have been his job, to protect his co-workers. And it also makes sense when you think about how weird the reaction of Peter's father actually was, as he said, "What the hell are you doing on this plane?" A weird thing to say to somebody that's behind you with a knife about to kill you. But if you know him, it's someone you work with like a fellow agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. that has nothing to do with your mission and there's no reason he should be on your plane, then that question makes a lot more sense. And Wolverine's response, "My job," makes a lot more sense too, as his job would be to save them, instead of course letting them die. But with Red Skull being Red Skull, maybe he knew all this and planned on killing all 3 of them for all being agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think I'm cooking, but we'll see in issue 3. Let's get back to the story. Now of course Wolverine does in fact tell Peter that he was working for Red Skull as a double agent, but we don't get to see if the rest of my theory is anywhere near right, as Peter lets him know the database lists every undercover operative except you. So he doesn't believe that Wolverine was a double agent. He believes he was actually working for Red Skull and actually sabotaged the plane to kill his parents. And it only becomes worse, as you guys know, one of the tropes of Wolverine is that his past is not reliable. He can't really remember it correctly, it's all broken pieces to him, so he can't accurately tell Peter why he was on that plane. Looking at the panel of Wolverine's lumped up, bruised face full of blood, it kinda makes you feel bad because he's genuinely not fighting back for most of this, kinda blocking and taking all the hits, trying to explain himself to Peter. Of course he can do this because of his indestructible skeleton and healing factor, but it just sucks that he's doing his best to get through to him while Peter is trying to beat him to death. And the fact that he can't actually give Peter answers, as like he says, he was a pretty bad guy in his past and his memories are trash. Now I don't think he should have said all this while Peter's bloodlusted, but the point is, he's doing his best to be passive and honest. And in response, Peter is continuing to rip him to pieces. And as Peter is still angry, only getting himself more pissed off, he punches Wolverine's jaw off. That shit is hanging by flesh. That adamantium jaw is barely dangling off his head. Not only that, but the punch throws him into some kind of fuel cell and he explodes. And this is finally enough. As we see Wolverine getting back up after all that damage, his claws pop and he starts to growl. And I mean, just look at this. What can be said? My God, has Wolverine lost it. He is completely in his berserker rage, completely lost his mind, and after all he's been through in this comic, I don't really blame him, as it's starting to look like he not only didn't kill Peter's parents, but he's been in a state of being beaten to death for like 30 minutes. He's finally taken enough damage and he is fucking done with Peter's temper tantrum. And now, after all this, we got Peter on the defensive, running backwards, shooting as many weapons as he can, but it's over. None of that's gonna work. Wolverine wants blood. And Peter barely gets out of the way as Wolverine lunges right at him, trying to cut him in half. We don't see Peter talking much anymore. He is now in a fight for his life. And he doesn't have the healing factor Wolverine has, or the indestructible bones. He's gotta be on his toes or he's dead. And Spider-Man is doing his absolute best. I really didn't think a bloodlusted fight between the two of them would go this way, but Peter seems to be completely outmatched once Wolverine loses it. Everything he tries doesn't work, and if it does work, Wolverine will simply heal. He seems to be too fast and too aggressive. And that coupled with the claws that can cut through anything, Peter's having a really hard time keeping Wolverine off of him, and it looks like he may actually be killed. As he continues to straight up work Peter, we see him get a second wind and it looks like they're both ready to tussle, but Wolverine finally snaps out of his berserker rage and he begs Peter to listen to him for one goddamn second. As he tries to explain to Peter that none of this seems right, this all reeks. Someone wanted him to find that video, someone wanted them to fight each other, as Kraven told him there's a group involved. So Peter says, cool, then tell me you didn't do it, tell me I got it wrong. Tell me the video was doctored, tell me anything. And this is of course where Wolverine's honesty is gonna get him into more trouble. As he said, he can't exactly tell Peter that he didn't do it. He knows for a fact that all of this has been orchestrated, but he cannot accurately depict what happened in the past. All he can remember is a husband and a wife, him being there, and a plane crashing. And that is enough for Peter as he realizes you really did kill my parents, and goes into his bloodlust again. And I cannot think of any hero or villain except for the real top tiers like Hulk and Sentry and Superman and stuff that could actually take this level of a beatdown. As all the fighting was a little different than what Peter does right here. He webs Wolverine up as best as he can, only leaving his face exposed. And with everything he's got, all the rage and strength in his body, he beats Wolverine's face into a pulp. He has lost it. And as he delivers blow after blow after blow after blow, it's eventually enough damage to have Wolverine lose it once again as he tears out of the web cocoon and runs after Spider-Man. But just like how I said there aren't a lot of people that can survive such a bloodlusted beatdown from Spider-Man without defending themselves, there aren't a lot of people that can survive just one wave of Wolverine's berserker rage, let alone two. So now that he's lost it again, he overwhelms Spider-Man and stabs him right in the stomach. It looks like after everything, after trying to talk Peter down, after doing his best not to pop those claws, after trying to get him to understand and being honest, the berserker rage was simply too much. The damage Peter inflicted on Wolverine was too much for him to control himself, and he may have just killed Spider-Man. And this is where we end the issue. Now, this doesn't appear to be any kind of fake out or plot twist, as we see in Spider-Man and Wolverine number 3. On the cover, Peter is back in black, so it's safe to assume the only reason he even survives these wounds is that someone, probably Wolverine, gets him to the symbiote. Which is crazy to think about, that in the bloodlusted fight between the two, Wolverine basically killed Peter and had to just find some outside source to keep him alive. I really wouldn't have thought a fight between these two would go this way when nothing is held back, as even with Wolverine being bloodlusted, Peter is still much faster and much stronger. Yet in this comic, every single time Wolverine lost it, the fight was completely one-sided. And the only time that was the case for Peter is when Logan wasn't even fighting back. So this comic makes it pretty clear, Wolverine stomped Spider-Man, which I don't agree with, but it is what it is. I am a salty Spider-Man fan, and I will be seeing you guys again for issue number 3 whenever that's released. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know how you felt about it in the comments, and I'll catch you on the next one.